We're back on the record. In 14 CR 1432, Mr. Jones does appear in custody. He's represented by Ms. Smith and also Mr. Colvin, Mr. Rubenstein, and Mr. Wade are both here for the people. Do you want to proceed with Dr. Havlik first?
Yes, Your Honor. We think we've worked out the rest of the witness issues. I don't think we need to make a record on any of them other than to let the court know that we need to proceed with Dr. Havlik, who's leaving town early tomorrow morning, and then we'll get back to Ms. Jones.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Colvin, you're still okay with that?
We're okay with all that. I just asked the court and informed the jury we're taking the witness out of order for scheduling, or however you want to phrase it.
Mr. Rubenstein?
We would ask that as well.
Okay, thanks. I'll go ahead and call for our jury then. All right, thank you. You can be seated. For the record, our jury has joined us back in the courtroom. By agreement of the parties, ladies and gentlemen, there's going to be a break in Ms. Jones's testimony. They're going to call another witness for scheduling purposes. It's all by agreement of the parties for witness convenience. Mr. Wade?
Thank you, Your Honor. I call Dr. Dean Havlik to the stand, please.
Okay, thank you. If you'll just be careful of this black cord. If you'd raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir. If you have a seat in the green chair, please. And then you can proceed whenever you're ready, Mr. Wade. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Dr. Havlik.
Good afternoon.
Would you state your name and spell your last name for the record, please?
Yes, Dean Havlik, H-A-V-L-I-K.
And how are you employed?
I'm the elected Mesa County coroner, and I'm a forensic pathologist.
Tell us about your education in terms of how you've gotten to this point.
So after high school, I went to undergraduate college at Arizona State, spent 4 years there, then went to medical school in Philadelphia at Medical College of Pennsylvania. Graduated from medical school. After 4 years, then I did a general pathology residency program, and that took 5 years. Then did a year of intensive training in forensic pathology after that.
And how long have you been the coroner for Mesa County?
I've been the coroner for Mesa County for about 10 years, been doing forensic pathology here in Grand Junction for about 15 years.
I take it from that you have a history of conducting autopsies?
I do, yes.
How many would you say that you've done over the course of your career?
I've done close to 2,500 or so.
And that's fine if the court will accept that stipulation.
Well, I'm not sure we picked up Mr. Colvin on the microphone. Sorry, Mr. Colvin.
The defense is willing to stipulate to Dr. Havlik's expertise in the field of
Forensic pathology?
forensic pathology, Judge.
Are you accepting that stipulation?
I would accept that stipulation.
All right, thank you. I do find that the doctor is qualified as an expert in the area of forensic pathology, and he'll be allowed to express his opinions in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Were you employed as a coroner back in March of 2012?
I was, yes.
And at that time, where did you work?
So worked for Mesa County Coroner's Office. We're housed at Community Hospital.
Okay. And as a coroner, what are your job responsibilities?
So our main job responsibility is to determine cause and manner of death. Cause of death is why someone died, like a heart attack, gunshot wound, stab wound. Manner of death, we have 4 basic choices: homicide, suicide, natural, and accident.
And did you make that kind of a determination as it relates to this case?
I did, yes.
On March 9th of 2012, did you do an autopsy regarding the remains of Paige Bergfeld?
Yes.
Now, those remains had been identified earlier. How had they been identified to you?
So there's several ways we can identify someone. When someone ends up just being bones, it can be challenging, but there's a couple ways you can do it. One of the easier ways is to do it by dental x-ray comparison. So you compare someone's teeth when they're found dead to what their teeth looked like before they died. And in this case, we did determine her identity by dental x-ray comparison.
Okay, and are you aware that later on that there was also a DNA comparison that further established that?
Yes.
When you did the autopsy on Ms. Bergfeld's remains, where was it performed?
It was at Community Hospital.
Okay. And what are the steps in completing an autopsy?
Kind of go through a typical routine in an autopsy. We first look at the external surface of the body. We document all the clothing, any trace evidence that we need to take. After we document that, then we do an external exam of the person themselves. We look at the skin surface, look for tattoos, scars, injuries, and then we proceed to our internal exam, looking for any injuries to the internal surface or any natural disease processes. In Ms. Bergfeld's case, because she was basically just bones, that internal examination was limited, but we did do a complete examination of her bones. Another thing that we do, especially in these type of cases, we do x-rays, and so we did x-rays of all her bones, just looking for any injuries in doing that method, and also looking for any bullets or knives, things like that.
Have you seen an inventory of her remains that was done?
Yes.
Did you also do a diagram indicating which parts of the skeleton you had available to you?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes, sir.
And I've shown this to the defense.
Thank you.
Show you what's been marked as People's Exhibits 1183 and 1184, sir. First, can you tell me what 1183 is?
So 1183 looks like a list of, it's labeled inventory, and it's a list of her bones.
And looking at that, does that look like an accurate inventory of what you had available to you to do this autopsy?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And then with respect to 1184?
Yes, so this is a diagram that I completed. Yes.
Okay. And when you completed that diagram, did you indicate on there what part of the skeleton you had available to you to look at?
Yes.
Is that an accurate diagram?
It is, yes.
Your Honor, I'd offer People's 1183 and 1184 at this time.
Do you have an objection, Mr. Colvin?
No, sir.
People's 1183 and 1184 are both admitted.
Now, you noted earlier that the condition of her remains made it difficult to perform this autopsy. Can you expound on that a little?
Well, sort of like I was talking about before, we try to do a complete external examination and internal examination because there were no internal organs to examine and no skin and no soft tissues to examine. It made determining cause of death challenging. Anytime we get a body that's been dead a while, it can be a challenge just because all the, if there's injuries involved, all the external injuries are lost.
Okay. Were you able to determine the cause of death in this case?
Was not, no.
Okay. And was that primarily due to the condition of the remains?
That's exactly what it was due to, yes.
Okay. You talked earlier about another role that you have, and that is to determine manner of death?
Correct.
And what does that mean?
So manner of death, there's basically 4 choices again: accident, suicide, natural, and homicide. Natural death is basically a heart attack or a brain aneurysm, stroke, something like that. Accidents, most commonly here, is motor vehicle accidents or drug deaths, and then suicides when someone takes their own life, and homicide is basically a death at the hands of another.
Okay. In this case, were you able to make a determination as to manner of death?
Yes.
And what was that determination?
We determined that to be homicide.
Okay. Out of those 4 choices, certainly homicide was, and on what did you base that?
So when we determine cause and manner of death, we take not only autopsy findings into account, we take investigation into account, our office's investigation, law enforcement office investigation, medical records, kind of take all that together and determine cause and manner of death. And in this particular case, the investigation was pointing towards a homicide, and where her body was found was consistent with the homicide. Basically, all the circumstances surrounding her death was associated with the homicide.
Okay. Did you note any injuries to the remains that you were able to look at?
There were some injuries, yes, to her skull. 2 small portions of her skull had some small fractures.
Okay. And were you able to determine what the cause of those fractures was?
No, we call these perimortem or basically perimortem injury, and that could mean, perimortem means any time around the cause or around the time of death. So these injuries to her skull could have happened right before she died or after she died, while she was moved. It could have been either. It was hard to tell.
Okay. Were there any other conclusions you were able to draw from Paige Bergfeld's remains?
No.
Your Honor, if I could have a moment.
Yes, sir.
Now, Dr. Havlik, you did that diagram that you did with the bones that you had available.
Correct.
And you noted at least a couple of small fractures in the, I think there was a small fracture in the nasal area?
Correct, yep.
And another one in the orbital area of the skull?
Correct.
If those bones if that body had been put through a wood chipper, would the things that you saw on that particular day, would that be consistent with that? If somebody's body were put through a wood chipper?
You would think there'd be a lot more injuries in this, just that.
Yeah. You would expect to see a lot more injuries. Would you expect to see whole bones and a whole skull as a result of that?
Yes, definitely.
I'm sorry, would you
Yes.
expect or would you not expect?
You would definitely expect more injuries, yes.
More injuries than what you saw?
Yes.
Doctor, I don't have anything else.
Cross-examination, Mr. Colvin.
Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome.
Afternoon, Doctor.
Good afternoon.
So, if I understand your testimony correctly, you determined that based upon the circumstances, that's why it's classified as a homicide. Is that correct?
Right, so we take everything into account: circumstances, scene investigation findings, autopsy findings, medical records, everything. Yeah.
So we're talking about the fact that she's reported disappeared. We're talking about the fact that her remains are found on the way to Delta with no plausible explanation for why they're out there. Those things suggest a homicide, right?
Correct.
All right. But there's nothing on the remains themselves that you examined that would tell you that one way or another, right?
Nothing on the remains themselves that would tell us a cause of death, correct?
Okay. And there's some fractures you referenced on the skull. Those fractures would not have caused death, correct?
No, correct.
And you talked about how you x-ray the bones. You're doing that looking for metal fragments, right?
Metal fragments, fine hairline fractures, I guess you could say. That would be another thing we're looking for. Sometimes when a person is stabbed, the little tip of the knife would could stay into a piece of bone. That's another reason why we do it.
Okay.
But I would say primarily looking for bullets, yes.
Okay. So bullets clearly could remain in bone, but also parts of a knife can remain if it's used, correct?
Correct.
And you've obviously done lots of autopsies that involve stabbings, correct?
Correct, yes.
And sometimes a stabbing that results in a death doesn't leave damage to bones, correct?
Correct.
But nonetheless, sometimes it does in fact leave damage to bones, right?
Sometimes, yes.
And you saw no indication on the skeletal remains of knife wounds, correct?
Did not, no.
And you certainly are familiar with those. You would recognize those if you saw them.
Yes.
If hypothetically someone bled out, you would not be surprised to find knife wounds to the bones, right?
If someone bled out from a knife wound incident, I wouldn't be surprised to see, you could possibly see knife marks on a bone, yes.
Okay. And in fairness, you wouldn't necessarily. It's possible to cause someone to bleed out and not have any kind of damage to the bones, right?
Correct.
But the more severe the knife wounds are, the more likely you're going to get damage to the bones, right?
The more severe knife wound. So seen many knife wound in deaths that had nothing to do with bones. They would just be soft tissue.
Sure. But stabbing someone to the point where they bleed out is more significant than stabbing somebody, right?
When they didn't die. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, definitely.
And stabbing somebody that all the blood in their body is outside of their body obviously is more severe than a knife wound that causes them to die but doesn't cause them to bleed out, right?
I'm sorry, say that again.
You can die and not have bled out.
You can die and not have blood. So when you say bled out, what you mean, there's a lot of blood at the scene?
Yeah.
Blood outside the body?
Yeah, hypothetically, it'd be blood that goes into the water and goes down the river for a long ways.
Correct. So
Okay.
ask your question again. I forgot the question.
So you can die without having bled out, die from a stab wound.
You can die from internal bleeding for. Yeah.
Okay. And so you could not bleed out, have all your body outside your body, but be dead, right?
Certainly.
But if you were stabbed such that you bled out, that would be more likely to leave knife wounds to bones than some kind of stab that just causes you to bleed out. Puncture an artery, puncture the ventricle. All the blood stays inside the body, you're going to die. Bleed out, that implies more force, more violence, right?
I wouldn't necessarily say that. I mean, I've seen pretty severe stab wounds that was just internal bleeding, not bleeding outside the body,
Okay.
and they died.
But you got to bleed somebody out, you got to stab them a lot, or you got to stab them real good, right?
Just one stab wound to the heart, you can die from internal bleeding.
But you don't bleed out then, right?
Bleed outside the body?
Right.
Usually not. It's usually internal bleeding.
Pardon me?
It's usually internal bleeding when you get stabbed in the heart. I don't know if you're bleeding out. Bleeding out is it sounds like bleeding out. You're talking about blood outside the body.
Right.
All right. Some people may say bleeding out is also internal bleeding. That's why I want to clarify.
Yeah, we're going to talk about blood outside of the body. Okay? Get all the blood outside of the body. That takes in general, takes a lot of force and a lot of stabs. Would you agree?
Not necessarily. I mean, you can get just one stab wound to the large artery in your leg. I've seen someone die just from a stab wound to the femoral artery, which is the big vessel in the leg, and they've died.
And all their blood came out.
It's hard to get all the blood out, but a lot of it, yes.
All right. I have nothing further. Thank you.
Mr. Waite, other questions for the witness?
So, Doctor, just so we're clear about the whole stabbing and bleeding out thing, you can get the two most likely places to bleed out, in other words, to have a lot of blood come out of your body and ultimately die from that. The two most likely places would be the carotid artery up in your neck, correct?
That would be a common place. That's a dangerous place, yes.
Okay, and then also the femoral artery that you just talked about in the leg.
That's a pretty big vessel there too, yes.
And you could certainly cut either one of those places and have a person have enough blood come out of their body to die without ever nicking the bone or having any kind of injuries to the bone.
Yes, definitely. Yes.
Thank you, I don't have anything else, Judge.
Mr. Colvin, other questions for the witness?
Based on that, too.
Is he under subpoena?
He is big, he could be released, Judge.
Any objection, Mr. Colvin?
No, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. You're released from your subpoena and free to go. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Ms. Jones again, or?
Yes, please.
All right, if someone could invite her into the courtroom, please. Thank you.
Judge, if I can approach and retrieve the exhibits.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Feel free to stretch if anybody wishes. Yes, thanks. Ms. Jones, if you could retake the stand for us, you're still under oath, please. Thank you. You can proceed whenever you're ready, Mr. Colvin. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome.
Afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
You would agree with me that no dog is perfect, right?
That is correct.
And you would agree with me that Quincy's not perfect, right?
That is correct.
And we've talked about this previously, right?
Yes.
You even shared with us previously an example where your dog made a mistake in training, right?
Sure.
Okay. But your belief is that Quincy's never made a mistake on a case you acted on, right?
As far as this case goes, I do not believe so because I have not been told that I had made an error.
That's not what I asked you. You don't believe Quincy's ever made a mistake on a case he's worked on? Any case?
I have not been told by law enforcement or whom I worked for that I have made errors.
Okay. In absent law enforcement telling you that he made a mistake, you assume he did not make a mistake.
That is correct.
Okay. Now, you recognize that law enforcement's job is to solve crimes, right?
Yes.
You realize law enforcement's job is not to report back to you on the performance of the dog, right?
Yes.
You realize that law enforcement does not simply start and end their investigation with dog handling, correct?
That is correct.
And you realize that if they make the case for any number of reasons, that may or may not have anything to do with the dog tracking, correct?
Correct.
And you recognize that if law enforcement goes out and solves the crime, and it's somebody completely different than who your dog indicated, they may or may not tell you that, right?
True.
Okay. So the absence of affirmatively telling you that your dog didn't make a mistake doesn't mean your dog didn't make a mistake, right?
Correct.
Okay. You recognize that the claims that you make regarding the abilities of your dog Quincy are beyond what most dog handlers would accept as something that is plausible for your dog to be able to do.
Yes.
Okay. We briefly talked previously about the fact that your records were lost. You recall that?
Yes.
Now, you agree with me that your records would be the thing you would rely upon to show that in fact your dog can do very unusual special things, right?
Correct.
Okay. You indicated that your dog was certified, is that right?
Correct.
Your dog was certified back in 2007?
Yes.
Your dog was certified by who in 2007?
In 2007, he was certified by our unit.
Right. VK9 is what we're talking about.
Correct.
So VK9 certified your dogs, and VK9 certified your dogs in cadaver,
Correct.
area search, right?
Yes,
Tracking, trailing?
yes,
Okay. VK9 did not certify your dogs in scent detection out of burnt vehicles, correct?
that is correct. That's a training issue.
I understand. VK9 didn't certify though, right?
True.
Okay. VK9 also didn't certify your dog in age scent tracking, right?
That is true.
Okay. VK9 is the group that says you guys specialize in these things that are unusual and on the outer limits of what dog handlers think is possible, right?
Yes,
So the group that thinks you guys are special in this isn't doing certification in this.
that is correct.
Part of the reason for that is VK9 certifies your dogs modeling their certification program after NAPWADA, right?
Correct,
NAPWADA is a National Association of Police Work Dogs, right?
correct.
Well-known group,
Yes,
very much respected.
yes, it is.
Okay. And so as a well-known, and there is a big group, right?
Exactly.
And so as a well-known, large group, they don't do any of those kinds of certifications, age, scent, et cetera, correct?
Correct.
So if you model your stuff after NAPWADA, you can't certify in those things because NAPWADA doesn't do it, right?
No, they personally don't.
Okay. In fact, nobody does it.
There may be some internal, other search groups that may do it, I don't know, but
Okay, you're unaware of any group or agency that certifies dogs in these types of things that many dog handlers don't even think are possible, such as age scent tracking. Would you agree?
yes,
Though your logs were lost, you have since then provided certifications related to mainstream things, such as tracking, et cetera, right?
yes,
Certification by more well-known groups than VK9, right?
yes.
In fact, your dog, Quincy, is now certified by NAPWADA, correct?
And the Virginia Police Work Dog Association as
But
well.
he wasn't qualified by them back in 2007, right?
That is correct.
VK9 certification was done by members of the VK9 organization, correct?
That is correct.
At the time of 2007, when your dog would have been certified by VK9, the members that were working in VK9 included you and Ms. Smith, or excuse me, Ms. Platts,
Yes,
and then Ms. Margie Spencer,
yes.
and so that's three,
Mm-hmm.
and there may have been two others.
Yes, there was Mr. Perry and his wife, and then there was one other woman.
Okay? And none of those people are around anymore, correct?
Yes, Mr. Perry passed away,
Uh-huh.
and his wife left, due to personal,
Sure.
and Margie Spencer lost her dog, and she was devastated and couldn't get another one.
Okay? And so VK9 now consists of you and Ms. Platts, right?
Yes,
And then you have other people that are on board in a training.
yes, they are.
They are trying to get to the point of being able to do
Correct.
tracking and stuff, right?
Correct.
But right now, VK9 consists of the people that are able to go out and work cases is you and Ms. Platts.
Yes,
And in 2007, you and Ms. Platts were the people that were available to go out and do cases.
yes,
Okay. So over the last 9 years, VK9 hasn't expanded the roster of people qualified to do the types of tracks in a working case situation, correct?
correct.
In fact, you were much less experienced then than you are now, right?
Yes,
Okay. And you got into this type of, the more outside the norm tracking, you got into that when you got affiliated with VK9, right?
that is correct.
And Ms. Platts is the person that you received a lot of your training from, correct?
No, that is not correct.
Well, the fact of the matter is, you agree Ms. Platts is more experienced than you?
No.
You don't agree with that?
No, I don't, because she's down in Virginia and I'm up here, in Maine, so I don't know what she has. Could you be more specific, training-wise? Do you mean been out more, trained more dogs?
Well,
I've been doing it longer than she has. I've been doing it since '94.
yeah, but what you were doing when you were doing the bloodhound work with the National Police Bloodhound Association, you were doing mainstream normal stuff, right?
Yes,
You weren't doing 8-cent tracking or sending cadavers out of burnt-out cars 30-something days later when you were working with the National Police Bloodhound Association, right?
no, I was not.
So when you start doing the more fringe stuff, that's when you get hooked up with Ms. Platts, right?
Actually, it was Margie Spencer, and I was actually indoctrined into the group when they first began, but I stayed in Maine and I did not do any of their, go down to there, but I was an affiliate member in Maine. That's when I started lengthening my age of my trails and started that sort of work myself. I did not officially go on any of their trips until probably 2004, I think.
That was such a long answer.
I'm
I forgot my
sorry.
question. I can't come back to it. I'm
Sorry.
sorry about that. In any case, talking about Ms. Platts, you have told us previously that she is someone you defer to in the science part of dog tracking, correct?
Yes, for the scientific journals. She really enjoys doing that sort of thing, so yes, I do.
'Cause you talked to us in March. By us, I mean the defense team.
Yes.
And the prosecution team all
Yes.
at the same time, right?
Yes, sir.
It was a big interview, right?
Yes, sir.
And at that time, you told us Ms. Platts is the lady that you listen to for the science stuff.
For the science aspect, yes.
And you said that Ms. Platts would come up with problems and you and her would work on solving them, right?
Yes,
Problems mean she would watch TV, see something, and then she'd come up with a scenario where you guys were going to see if your dogs could solve the problem, right?
yes,
Okay. So Ms. Platts develops training problems that you work on, right?
yeah,
Okay. The fact of the matter is, she is someone that you collaborate with, correct?
yes,
And she's somebody that you respect
yes,
in the field of dog tracking.
yes,
Okay. And she's someone that, in fact, you rely upon, correct?
If I go on a case myself and I think I need a little bit more dog help, then yes, I will ask to bring her in.
Okay. Real briefly, you agree with me that there is a thing called cueing, right?
Yes, sir.
You agree with me that, in fact, handlers can cue their dogs, right?
Yes, sir.
And by that, just so we're on the same page, what that means is handlers can do things that cause their dogs to respond in a particular way, correct?
Yes,
And you agree with me that cueing can result in poor tracking results, right?
yes, that and anything else.
Okay. And you also agree with me that that process can be unconscious. In other words, the handler can be unaware that they're cueing their dog, right?
Yes,
And you are aware of the fact that there's been scientific research showing that handlers who have a preconceived notion can cause their dogs to respond, and specifically when they're trying not to do that, right?
yes,
Okay. And because you're familiar with all these things?
Yes, sir.
Because of your training, right?
yes, sir.
And you've gone to all kinds of training, you've told us. And they talk about this stuff, right?
Yes,
And you and Ms. Platts have talked about this stuff.
yes,
And you know that the types of tracks that you're engaged in can result in people being in courtrooms being charged with first-degree murder, right?
yes, sir.
So you don't want your tracks to be wrong.
That is correct.
Okay. And that's why you make such a big deal out of, we didn't know anything about this case practically, correct? Be wrong.
That is correct.
Okay. And that's why you make such a big deal out of, we didn't know anything about this case practically, correct?
As much as possible, yes.
Okay. And you intentionally and willfully remain ignorant of the facts of the case before you come out here, right?
As much as possible, yes.
Okay. And the fact of the matter is, you know for a fact, somebody is learning about the case, right?
Yes,
And it's your position, the only person who's learning about this case is Margie Spencer, right?
well, if I may explain, we don't tend to look at every case that Margie may have looked into at the time, because we had done that before, checked into a case, and it's just taken time and effort, and we never went on any of those cases. So we wait until law enforcement calls us, and then we just find out what the case is and get ready to go. So we don't go looking for every nuance of a case. We don't want to do that.
I don't know that I've ever heard this before. So it used to be the practice of VK9 to look at every case?
No, just cases that Margie looked into that said, hey, I might have a case over here, I might have a case over there, and so we just waited for her to make the call, and for law enforcement to call back.
Okay. You just told me, I think, that it used to be the practice of VK9 to learn on or study up on cases, and you stopped doing that because you didn't always get called out.
Well, like if she said, we have a case over in Vermont, we have a case over here, I would look, and she said, it's so-and-so, I'd look at it and go, it's a missing baby, and the parental father took it. No, that's not the type of case that we would go any further on, because the police know who has the child, so then we'd stop. We just waited for the call from the police department.
But that's not true. You didn't just wait for a call from the police department. You guys went out and solicited business, right?
Margie did. And it was, I guess, when Margie made the call, there was an expanse of time before there was a call back from the police department.
Margie solicited business.
Right,
Margie's part of VK9.
yes.
VK9 soliciting business.
Yes, from down in Virginia, yes.
Yes, what?
I said, yes, she's down in Virginia, and yes, she did that.
Okay. The fact that she's in Virginia, what does that have to do with my question or your answer?
Well, I'm up here in Maine, so it's not like we live next door or something like that. So it's not like she was in touch with me saying, I just made a call,
They don't have phones in Maine?
She didn't let me know everything that she was doing all the time. She didn't let anybody know. She just made a call to see if there was an interest. If there was, then she would let us know.
The way you're describing this, it sounds like Margie's just out there running rogue and you don't have any idea what's happening. All of a sudden, police are calling you. Is that how this works?
No, she can tell by the conversation. If law enforcement says, no, we're all set right now, and, but thank you, if we do need you, we'll call. You can tell from the demeanor whether or not you're going to be called.
How do you know that? You don't even talk to Margie about this.
No, I'm just saying on Margie's behalf. That's what she did. That's why she didn't call us, because she could tell whether or not they were interested. Sometimes they'd say, no, we're all set, we have our own dogs. So there was no sense for her to let everybody know, hey, I just made a call to so-and-so.
Okay, so she doesn't tell you anything about it, you just wait for the police to call you, and you don't learn anything about the case, but Margie knows in advance if they're gonna call you because she can read their body language.
No, it's what they say. If they say, hey, look, we're going to look into this, we'll see if we can bring you in, because there is a cost involved. They have to pay for us coming in, and some police departments say right off at the beginning, hey, we'd like to have you come in, but we just don't have the money to do it. So that negates, everything right there.
You're not testifying. The only reason police don't want you involved is because they can't afford to fly you there, are you?
They have told us, they have told me that several times, that they would love to have us come in, but they can't get the money, a lot of these places might be small police departments. That's happened to me probably a half dozen times.
I truly don't intend to be mean, okay?
Mm-hmm, certainly.
You realize sometimes people might say they can't afford to fly in when they don't want you guys anywhere near the case, right?
Possibly.
Okay. All right. Is it fair to say you highly identify with law enforcement?
I know law enforcement. I don't know what you mean by highly identify.
Well, you're married to a police,
Okay,
right?
yes,
You work with police officers when you did the National Police Blood
Yes, sir.
Association,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you align yourself mentally with law enforcement, right?
yes, if they call me,
Okay.
yep.
You know that if we look up VK9 on Facebook, or excuse me, if we look up VK9 on the web, we find your Facebook. Did you know that?
No, sir.
Okay. Can I approach this witness, Judge?
Yes, you may.
I'm showing you these previous ones. Showing the witness, defendant's exhibit, triple V and triple U. You recognize those men?
Yes, this is,
Don't tell me what it is yet.
okay,
You
sir.
recognize it?
Yes.
What is it?
That is a website, a Facebook that a junior member of VK9 takes care of.
Isn't it yours?
I don't think so. I think that's not my, I don't know if that's my personal or not. I haven't gotten on for quite some time.
You know how when you log into Facebook, do you have a picture up?
Yes.
What's that picture?
Yeah, that is a picture of me right there. Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you think there's somebody else, a junior member, who's got a Facebook page that has your picture as their...
She does bring mine, but like I did not do this here
We're going to talk
or that.
about
Yes, certainly, sure.
Okay? We got to establish this. When it says Julie Jones and has your picture on it, and that's the start of the Facebook page.
Okay, then that would be mine.
Okay. All right. And both of them are from your Facebook page, right?
I don't remember that. To be honest, I have had a lot going on, and I have not looked at my Facebook for probably several months.
Okay. And I understand you got a lot going on.
Certainly.
And I'm trying to
Yep.
be respectful, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But that's the same picture by your name.
Okay.
That starts this out.
Yep.
That's on this page, right?
It could be. Yeah.
Ma'am.
I mean, it probably is.
Those are the same
I don't
pictures.
recognize them. Yep,
And the pictures I'm talking about
Right.
are still pictures by your name at the
Right.
beginning of it.
Yep.
And it's the same, right?
right.
Okay. So you think it's probably from your Facebook? Will you give me that?
Yeah, okay, yes, sir.
All right. At this time, we would introduce defendants exhibit V and U.
Is that
Or
triple
triple
U
U,
and triple V by chance?
Yes, sir. Triple U, triple V.
Mr. Waite.
Well, Judge, I'm not sure that he established this witness's personal knowledge of those items. And then secondly, I don't think that, I don't know what the relevance would be.
Well, do you
Mr.
want to
Colvin?
respond?
Sure.
I think I have established a foundation that they belong to her based upon her testimony. The relevancy is that one of these purports to be a statement regarding her affiliation with law enforcement. I think that's relevant to establish her ideological bent in this case, which is relevant to bias. I think the other one relates to soliciting business for VK9. Oops, sorry. Thank you.
The objections are overruled. Defendants Triple U and Triple V are both admitted.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes, you may. You can proceed, Mr. Colvin.
Okay. I am seeking permission to publish T and U.
Sorry.
Triple U and triple V is what I'm seeking.
Any objection, Mr. Wade?
No objection.
That's fine, thank you.
Okay. I'm getting there. Now, you just said, if I recall correctly, that Margie's the only one that goes out and solicits business for VK9. Is that right?
She was at the time.
Okay. And that is no longer the case, right?
That is true.
Now you're in the business of soliciting business for VK9 because it's posted on your Facebook page that this is what you do and share with law enforcement, right?
Yes?
Okay. Permission to approach this?
Yes, sir.
Now, I just want to make sure, you and I talked about whether or not this was your Facebook page.
Yes.
That's a picture of you, right?
Yes, it is.
And that's a picture of Quincy, right?
Yes, it is.
And that picture is the, I can't think of the name of it, but you know how when you go to Facebook, you have your picture on the
Yes.
front page?
Yes, it is.
That's the picture you got there, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And for those that don't know, Facebook allows you to share things, right? Is that true?
You can, yes.
Okay.
Yes, you may.
Putting up defendants triple V. Now, this is something you shared on your Facebook, right?
I do not remember doing that or sharing that.
Okay, well, it says Julie R. Jones, you're Julie R. Jones, right?
Yes.
And it says Julie R. Jones shared Sin Dodge's photo, right?
Yes.
Sin Dodge is a junior member of VK9.
No, I don't even know who that is.
Okay. Do you know who all these people are,
I-
right? You know?
I do not know who they are, no.
Okay. Do you ever get things on your Facebook page that you can see that somebody else put up?
Yes.
Okay. And this
says that you would, that I choose to, not you, but it says, I choose to support our police and not criminals, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's a sentiment you agree with, isn't it?
No. No, that's, that just does not look like something that I would share, and I really am surprised that it's there.
Okay, you're surprised that it's on your Facebook?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I want to time out just for 1 second.
Yep,
You do think we should support police, right?
sure.
Okay. And you don't think we should support criminals, right?
I don't know how you would support a criminal. I don't, that's the thing why I don't, it just doesn't look like anything I would say.
Okay.
I don't even know how you would support a criminal.
All right. Let's leave aside the issue of whether or not you support criminals. The fact of the matter is, if you put this stuff out there, it's concerning to you in this context because a defense lawyer could be arguing, hey, this is a lady who's not being a law enforcement person, right?
Right.
And so that's not something you want up on your Facebook because it calls your objectivity into question, right?
Yes, I would have come and worked for you had you called me, if you had something for me to do.
If we paid to fly you out here, like Mason County Sheriff's Department did, right?
Yes.
Now, you're aware of the fact, one of the things that I think we've established is that you don't want to have any knowledge of the case because that raises problems with handler bias, et cetera, right?
Oh, as much as possible.
Okay. You agree with me, however, that Sergeant Smith, then Sergeant Smith with Mason County Sheriff's Department, contacted you in response to Ms. Spencer saying to him, you guys were available, right?
Yes.
And you agree that you and then Sergeant Smith talked about the case, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you agree that at that time he told you about it, so you could talk to him about whether or not your dogs could do anything, right?
Yes.
And you know, now at least, that there was a ton of media coverage on this case back then, right?
Not up in my area, but yes, at your area, yes. I didn't have anything up in my area when all this first started in Maine that I saw.
Maine has TV, right?
Yes, but locally and things like that, we don't get a lot of this.
Do you get national news?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Not only did you talk to then Sergeant Smith on the phone, when you got here, you got a briefing from him, right?
Right.
Okay. And the sole way we know that you had no exposure to any media coverage of this case is by taking your word for it, right?
I can't say we didn't have, or personally, I didn't have any, but I don't want details or anything like that. I want them to take me to an area and basically let the dog work. After the dog gets done,
I think we're all clear on why you
Right.
don't want to have knowledge. It's because
That
you
is-
don't want there to be handler bias.
Certainly.
resulting
Yeah,
in
try
unconscious
as
bias.
hard as you can not to.
Okay, we get it.
Okay?
Question I asked you was, the only way we know that you didn't have any exposure to media is by taking your word for it.
Yes.
Okay. And we don't know whether or not Ms. Platts knew things about it, right?
Yes.
Even if you didn't know about it, you have no way of knowing what she knew about it, right?
Correct.
And so the fact of the matter is, if
Ms. Platt's new things, that could affect her dogs, right?
It could, yes.
You never requested that any of the tracks that you did in this case be videotaped, is that right?
Never thought of it.
Okay. You now know, of course, that would have been a great idea, right?
Yes, back then, that wasn't a mainstream thing to do, but I never asked.
Well, okay. By mainstream, you mean it wasn't routine for routine dog handlers to videotape, right?
For law enforcement and, to do it.
Okay. I think we're on the same. Videotaping was real and common, right? I mean, you agree with me, in 2007, videotaping was a thing.
For the that we do,
I
no.
would ask you, videotaping was a thing in the world.
Videotaping was there,
Okay, like people videotape
Oh,
their
yes.
kids' birthday parties.
sure.
Position that dog handlers didn't videotape. Okay, and by dog handlers, we mean normal dog handlers doing normal types of tracks like man trailing, like normal cadaver work, the stuff that NAPWADA certifies in, right?
Correct.
Those people didn't videotape, right?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, but you have agreed with me, the stuff you guys do is cutting edge stuff, right?
Correct.
Not everybody's doing the stuff you do.
Correct.
You agree with me that your claims are extraordinary, your claims about what your dogs can do. They're extraordinary.
As compared to traditional search and rescue dogs and the work police dogs do, yes, it is.
Okay, and if you are making extraordinary claims, you would agree with me, you should have extraordinary proof, wouldn't you?
We now do have videotapes since that 2007, shortly after that. Yes, there are some police agencies that do videotape.
On cases, you have videotape.
Yes, I don't personally have them, they do. Cases that we've worked, yes, sir.
We've asked you before if there's videotape on your dog's working, haven't we?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't personally have anything. Cases I've worked since, yes.
So your position is, police agencies out there have videotapes of your dogs working that we could review. You don't have them, though.
That is correct.
Okay. The videotape would be really important because we could bring other dog handlers in to watch how you did the tracks and say, these things show cueing or these things don't, right?
Yes, they could. I don't believe that they would see it in the work that I've done.
Right, because
I haven't known
no
the
police officer
information.
told you did anything wrong, and absent that, you think you did everything right.
I've been contacted by police agencies who have gone after the fact. They've either got the person for murder, etc., and said that the work that I did was
Fantastic.
dead on.
Perfect. Right?
I don't believe the word perfect was used.
Okay. And the police agencies you're talking about have said you do great work, but you know for a fact that BK9's work, specifically yours and Ms. Platt's work, has been criticized before, right?
By the mainstream traditional search and rescue, yes.
Now, when you first got into working with dogs, you worked with your husband's bloodhound.
Husband's, Doberman dog, yes, police dog, yes.
Okay? And the work you did, you testified that very first training was with the National Police Bloodhound Association.
That was my first large seminar. conference.
In fact, when you testified about it, you were kind of proud of the fact that you got to go there even though you didn't have arrest powers, because it was supposed to be police only.
Yes, they saw that I knew how to handle the dog well, and they were impressed by it.
And you were proud of that.
After the fact, yes, yes.
It was a big deal that you, not being a police officer, got to go.
Nobody, I mean, it is now. It's hard for me to speak in front of everybody now because that's not the thing that I do. It was a silent pride. I don't go bragging about this.
Okay. But despite the fact that it was such a big deal to you to be able to work with the National Police Bloodhound Association training, you're aware of the fact that the work you've done in California resulted in the chief of the National Police Bloodhound Association going to the media and saying, you guys can't do what you say your dogs can do.
And you know, I did not even know that.
Until the last time we appeared in court.
Exactly.
And that's when we talked about it, because it's been in the media, huh?
I had not seen that.
But you know it now.
Yes, sir.
Can I approach the witness, Judge?
Yes, sir, thank you.
I am showing you, it's been marked as XXX. Can you identify that?
Yes, this is, these are pictures that went, that I put in my after-action report.
And a lot of these are pictures the prosecution went through with you, right?
Yes, without the comments, yes, sir.
Right. But these pictures, in fact, are the ones that you put on your report, and they have your comments written on them, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Judge, at this time, the defense would offer XXX.
Any objection, Mr. Wade?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
And no
Triple-
objection to publishing it.
All right, thank you. XXX is admitted and you can publish. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome.
For our record, this is a multi-page exhibit, and at the bottom of each page, it's labeled numerically 1443 through 1456, so when I reference page numbers for the record, they will all be from XXX.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to talk to you about a few of the tasks you did, okay?
Okay.
First one, cadaver at the impound lot. You with
Yes,
me?
sir.
Okay.
Yes.
In that one, your dog hit backseat of that car, right?
Yes.
Now, let's be clear. The car we're talking about is a burned out car, right?
Yes.
When you're there, you've tried to maintain this willful ignorance of the details of the case, right?
Yes.
But you knew the lady was reported missing, right?
Yes. Yes, I did.
And you knew there was a burned car, right?
Yes.
Okay. When you go to that impound lot, there's no other burned car there, right?
Unfortunately, you're correct.
And you say unfortunately because it would be nice to have something that doesn't suggest unconscious cueing. It could have happened on your part, correct?
Yes.
Not here, though, right? Fact of the matter is, we know for a fact, the only car that's involved in this is a burnt car, or the only car that is burnt is the one your dogs are going to.
Correct.
All right. I am showing you page 1444, I think. Yes, page 1444. Now, this is a picture of the vehicle, right?
Yes.
And your dog got in that back seat.
He did.
All right.
It took him work, but he did.
Okay. And it would be obviously untrue to suggest that your dog couldn't get inside the car because your dog did, right?
He squirmed around until he got the front of his body in the back, the best that he could.
Sure.
I was not there lifting up or anything.
Right. All I'm trying to establish here is anybody that says it's not possible for their dog to get in the car is just wrong, because your dog did.
Yeah, they could squirm, you know.
All right. Also, your dog is indicating that there's cadaver scent in the back seat, right?
In the back area, yes, sir.
Not in the trunk.
No.
Your dog, if he can determine it's in the back seat, your dog could determine if it's in the trunk, right?
He should be able to, yes, sir.
Okay. And so, for whatever reason, apparently, a dead human being or something that put off cadaver scent is put in the back seat and not in the trunk.
I'm assuming the back seat. I believe that the trunk area in the back, I believe that was open, so scent probably could come in. I don't know. I just know my dog went to the back seat, and that's
Whoa.
all I could report.
Time out. You just gave me an explanation for why there would not be cadaver scent in the trunk, right?
The dog did not go to, he just went into the back seat.
Yeah, you just
That's
gave
it.
me an explanation for why there wouldn't be cadaver scent in the trunk, right?
He didn't go to the trunk.
No, he didn't go to the
Right.
trunk. You just talked about how the trunk was open and the scent could have been
Yeah,
gone, right?
yeah, he
That's
just,
an
yeah.
explanation for why there's not cadaver scent in the trunk, right?
He didn't go there, so I just know the back seat.
My point is, if you think that the idea there's not cadaver scent in the trunk is a big deal, all of a sudden you're explaining that. You never explained nothing. Before, you just said back seat. That made perfect sense to you that that's where her body would be. So you had no reason to explain anything away, right?
Sorry, trying to be too helpful.
All right. You do cadaver scenting on 15 cars in that lot, right?
All the cars that were there, the dog did go around looking for cadaver scent.
That's not what your report says, ma'am. You
I mean,
wrote
I
your-
started, we started on the left side and went over to the right side. And after he got cadaver right there, we continued on all the other cars.
Can I approach?
Yes, sir.
Maybe I don't understand you. Is it your testimony that your dog searched cadaver scent on every vehicle in the impound lot?
On that line, on that stretch, yes.
Okay. So now I understand you. You agree with me, your dog didn't search every car in that lot?
The line that was there,
That's not all.
30, I believe it was it 39 vehicles were there, and he searched all of them. Went around and searched all of them.
Your report says that there's 37
The
vehicles.
37, pardon me.
2 recreational vehicles in the
Right,
impound.
so there were 39 total vehicles, yes.
There's 37 and 2,
Right,
39 vehicles.
right.
And your report says he does that line, which is 10 vehicles plus 5 more. So that's 15, right? You want to see it?
Sure.
Oh.
Yes, please.
Just so we're all on the same page,
Sure.
that's your report, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Task 1,
Okay?
there's 37 vehicles and 2 recreational vehicles
Certainly.
in the impound lot, right?
Right, correct.
And your dog searches all the vehicles from parking space 24 to 34, right?
Yes,
There's only 1 vehicle per parking space.
yes, correct.
So 24 to 34 means he searches 10 of them, maybe less if there's empty parking lot spaces, but maybe 10, right?
Okay, right.
And then your vehicle searches 5 more.
Yes, that was after he got the positive on the red vehicle.
Okay, so your dog searched
Okay,
15 vehicles,
okay,
right?
yes, sir.
And you didn't search them all, right? Not
Right,
everything
it was
that's
in
the
that, it was in that line, yes.
You didn't search everything that was in the impound lot.
Right,
Okay.
correct.
And the fact is that he only searches that one line because you start him on that line, right?
Yes, sir.
You don't just have him run loose and wander wherever he wants. You start him on that line, and that line happens to have the only burnt car in the parking lot.
The dog doesn't, there could have been cadaver in any of them. The dog doesn't necessarily go to a burned-out car for cadaver.
He could have gone to any one of 39, but you start him in the same place where the burnt car is, and there's only one burnt car.
But I had a whole line of cars. It's not like I started him out on the burned car. He started all by himself loose and did the whole line.
Okay. Task 2, you're looking at, this is where you're doing Ms. Bergfeld's, no, you're doing Mr. Jones' scent, right?
Correct?
And your report says he shows interest in a car that's one space away from the burnt-out car? You recall that?
Yes.
And then you explain how the wind could cause that to happen. And really, when you redirect the dog back to the area of the burnt car, he gets it right, and he gets Mr. Jones in that burnt car, right?
No, I did not redirect. I saw the dog turn his head like this towards the other car. Then he immediately swung his head back to the right and went to the car. I was not there hand pointing. This was all done himself, by himself, off lead. We were standing, myself and the police officers, a fair distance away, enough so the dog did what he did, came to get me, and took me back over to show me. Independent work.
Absolutely independent. You had nothing to do with it. Dog's in the wrong spot. But we get there eventually, right?
He was not in the wrong spot. He was in between two vehicles. I didn't even need to, had I not even mentioned the head turn, we wouldn't be here. I just did that because that's what he did. It was just a head turn.
I hope I'm not teaching you to leave things out of your report.
Of course not.
Okay. Let's see. You said, I'm on task 3 now, you scented for Ms. Bergfeld's scent. You indicated that she's in multiple locations in the car, right?
Yes, yes, sir.
You don't say specifically where those locations are, right?
I don't remember what I put in there, but the dog circled the car and indicated on various, like passenger side, driver's side, the back area. The whole vehicle would have her scent on it, if that's her vehicle. And I'm assuming that's her vehicle because that's what the dog said.
Right. And you know she's missing, you know there's a burnt car, you're assuming it's her vehicle then, right?
Well, considering that the information that I had I had Mr. Jones' scent article, I had Ms. Bergfeld's scent article, and because he went to multiple places around that vehicle, I would assume definitely that would have been her car. That would have been my inner thoughts.
And if it's her car, you assume there's scent all over it. It
Yeah.
belongs to her. So you have no reason to identify a particular spot on the car when it's her scent, you're scenting on what you believe is her car, correct?
I just, do you mean the way I phrased it in the report?
What I mean is, you say cadaver, back seat.
Yes, sir.
You say Mr. Jones, driver's seat.
Yes.
Very specific.
Yes, sir.
Right? But your report just says multiple locations, you're not specific, and frankly, you're really specific in lots of places when you write your reports.
Yeah, apparently
You're very unspecific when it comes to the scent with Ms. Bergfeld. That is because you made the decision, there's no point in being specific, this is her car. This is what the dog has to find.
He doesn't have to find it if it's not there, but that's what he did. I believe I put arrows all around the car on there, but I'm not sure. But I learned something, that maybe I should put all the different places that he knows the car, but I did not.
Showing you the bottom of the previous page. That's the picture you put in your report.
Okay?
There's no arrows showing any locations on that car, is there?
Judge, I'm going to object. That's a misrepresentation. That's actually it's very clearly in the box. It says for the person of interest sent. So that's not the one that they're talking about at this point.
It's actually labeled at the top, task 1 through 3. But I can clarify if that will help.
Well, it is what it is, so you all can make your inferences and ask questions about it. The objections on the rule. Yes, sir.
These are the pictures that we just talked about a second ago from your report, right?
Right.
Okay. First picture, that picture relates to cadaver scent, right?
Yes, I have the red arrow.
Okay. But what I want to talk about is the scent track with Ms. Bergfeld's scent, okay?
Okay?
So that picture, cadaver, that's not it, right?
For cadaver in the rear.
Hang on one second.
Sure.
What I want to talk about is the track you did with Ms. Bergfeld's scent.
Oh, with just hers, okay? Mm-hmm.
And this first picture, picture number 1, that can't be a picture where you're putting arrows about where Ms. Bergfeld's scent was located, because the first picture is related to cadaver, right?
Right.
Okay. Picture 2, that's the one that's up there, right?
Mhm. Yes, sir.
Okay. Picture 3 and 4 are close-ups of the burnt-out car that don't have any specific arrows on them showing where in multiple places there's scent, right?
No, I have arrows.
Okay. That's the picture you're talking about?
Yeah, there are arrows that says gave positive indications for Ms. Bergfeld multiple places in her vehicle.
So this is you saying there's multiple places here?
Yes.
There's a single, no, I'm sorry,
No,
there's
there
2
isn't.
arrows,
There are
right?
three arrows. There's one that points to the front, there's one that points to the back, further inside, and then there's one that points to the back area. There are 3 arrows there. They're in orange.
Okay. So I just showed
That's
picture
multiple.
3, that's the one we're talking about. And then
Yes.
picture 4, right, that's a different thing altogether.
Yes, sir.
And then picture 5, that has nothing to do with arrows, right?
Yes, that's just kind of a picture for overall for
Okay.
the benefit.
And then picture 6, we're not at the impound lot anymore, right?
That is correct.
Okay. So the picture you're talking about, I just want to make sure I'm
Yeah.
with you. You testified that you created a picture showing the multiple locations your dog gave positive indications for Ms. Bergfeld's scent.
Yes, the best I could, putting arrows on a still photo, yes.
Front and back of the passenger compartment.
Yes.
Okay. That is your detailed arrows showing where the scent is, as opposed to the front seat, back seat.
Well, yeah, it's showing front seat, it's showing back seat, and it's showing, further back. It is very difficult. After this, I've learned that obviously I'm going to have to do better and maybe more specific, but I thought that was specific enough, showing that there were multiple places on there.
There's no scent arrows to the trunk.
I don't have any there. I mean, he may have, but I wasn't so specific on everything. It's just, he just showed multiple places.
All right. I'm moving to picture 6, no, I'm sorry, picture 7 on page 1446.
Okay?
That's the one of the truck?
Yes, sir.
The truck, you had that evidence tape taken down because you didn't want the dogs to play with it? Is that what you said?
Yeah, my dog really wouldn't care or anything. I also just don't want it there just for like a bias thing, even though we might be able to figure it out that that's his, but it's just better, even in the pictures, it's really just better not to have it. I have seen some dogs kind of go by something and kind of jump up and grab, not mine, not Sarah's, but I have seen in training other dogs go and grab tape. So we've all learned that to try to take things like that down.
Well, when you testified previously in this matter, you said that you had it taken down because it was a cueing thing and you didn't want Ms. Platts to be subjected to having that. You were trying to eliminate sources of unconscious bias for Ms. Platts, right?
Yes, she was the next one. I saw it, so there wasn't anything that I could do about it other than have it removed for the next person.
And since that time, I've pointed out to you in court that that truck's the only one in that entire building that's not a police-type vehicle.
That's correct.
You have in fact agreed with me.
Yes.
Kind of silly to think that you couldn't figure out which truck they thought was of importance, right?
Right, but my dog didn't know and he doesn't care.
Right. And since we've now had that conversation, now you're more concerned with the dog jumping up and grabbing the tape.
Oh,
That's why
I'm
it
not,
comes down.
not for my dog.
All right. Oh, your dog hits on the passenger side, right? Or the driver's side door, I'm
Driver's
sorry.
side for Miss Bergfeld, very lightly.
And your dog doesn't hit on the back of the car, right?
No, he does not do any other indication.
And the fact that your dog and Ms. Platt's dog had totally different indications on this truck, that in no way is surprising to you, right?
If I recall, her dog did not give an indication, and she also did not take her dog around the vehicle,
How do you know her dog did not give an indication?
because she told me
Okay.
several years ago. She told me that she only did the back of the vehicle, she never went around it.
Okay. Moving forward. We are now looking at page 1448. These are searches you do in front of Bob Scott RV, correct?
Yes.
And these locations, you find no indication that Ms. Bergfeld sent.
Not on the ground there. I specifically had my dog just check those areas. Was Miss Bergfeld there in this spot? It wasn't air scenting or
And
anything.
you're making a very careful distinction between air scenting and ground scenting, right?
Yes.
Because you're well aware of the fact, because you and Ms. Platts have talked, that Ms. Platt's dog says Ms. Bergfeld's scent is all over about 1.5 miles around here, right?
Well, I wasn't aware of that amount, but I do know that her dogs do scent in the air, so if there is scent flying, in other words, if someone is,
The question was, you
Sorry.
were aware of the fact that Ms. Platt's dogs got a lot of scent, apparently, from Ms. Bergfeld in this area, right?
because they air scent, yes, I am aware.
And you and Ms. Platts have talked about it, right?
Yes, we have spoken about it.
And because you have spoken about it, and you know that you're going to testify here, you knew you would have to explain that away, right?
Well, not explain it away, it's now we have learned that on cases like this that are more specific and more detailed, we were asked, was Ms. Bergfeld in that area? not to specifically use her dog on a task such as that.
We have learned on cases like this.
Yes, like on this.
The only time you've ever testified in a court of law, this case.
Oh, no, we learned from this case many years ago.
Okay. Did you guys talk about the fact that Ms. Platt's dog was able to detect the scent exactly where the burn car was, and your dog scent 2 to 3 spaces away?
No, it was not 2 to 3 spaces away. My dog was right between where the vehicle was. I was told that my dog was right in between the space. And that can be easily answered why it was between.
Man, now you've got me questioning myself. On task 9, you're scenting the scent article of Ms. Bergfeld. And on task 9, you say that the dog indicates 2 to 3 parking spaces from where her car is parked, right?
May I look at
Sure.
my verbiage? Thank you.
Do you want to see?
Is it task 9?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay, thank you. What that means, 2 and 3, is parking space 2 and 3. The burned car was, I believe, on number 2, parking space that they happened to label 2. That's what they told me for my report. Parking space 2 and parking space 3, and I was right in between those particular spaces. That's what I was told there for my notes. I ran first, and I found out afterwards.
Wait, whoa.
Right.
It's your testimony. And please tell me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
It is your testimony that what you're talking about is your dog indicates between space 2 and space 3, and that's right by where the car is, right?
Yes, that's correct.
What you wrote in your report was that your dog finds the scent, positive indication, showing the handler one area that he had the scent, between 2 and 3 parking spaces to the right east of the spot where Ms. Bergfeld's vehicle was parked and burned.
Yes,
It doesn't sound like
yeah,
you're saying between
the
space 2 and
verbiage,
3.
yes, I erred in my verbiage there.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my error.
There's your thing, saying the dog's right there between 2 parking spaces. Between space 2 and 3 is what you're telling us, right?
I believe so. I don't see any markers that say 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. That was just what was given to me by a police officer.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. Would you agree with me? They do some weird numbering of parking spaces?
Well, I don't know. I just went by what the police officer said, and it wasn't necessarily at that time. This is like I called back up, or like back at the station, I may have asked for information, like addresses and things.
You were testifying earlier, and you talked about how you did task 10. That's the track to Bob Scott RV. And
Yes, sir.
you had to repeat it because the GPS wasn't working. You recall talking about that?
Yes.
And you made a point of saying when you did the second track, more officers had arrived to witness what happened, right?
Yes.
Because quite frankly, it's really important for you to have more people
witness how special your dogs are. Would you agree?
No, I didn't ask for that. That's just what happened
Okay.
when I was there.
Nobody had asked you whether or not lots of officers witnessed this. That was something you thought was important to put in.
Yes.
By the way, your dog is tracking to Bob Scott RV. Can I approach again, Judge? Yes, sir. I'm going to borrow this.
Certainly.
Not tracking on those pictures. Okay. This same picture. That same picture that now we can't see showed your dog starting out. There we go. I'm in picture 13. We were talking about 10 and 12. That's that note over here.
Right.
That's your dog starting out in the parking lot and heading over to Bob Scott, right?
Yes.
Big deal because you do it twice and
Yes.
lots of officers saw it, right?
Well, it is because that way more officers can see that,
Your dog's special.
know that my dog did it, that the dog repeated it again. A lot of people will not run something twice because they're afraid the dog may all of a sudden get bored or go, oh, look, a squirrel. And we had the exact duplicate.
That is absolutely good proof that your dog can do what it said it could, right?
No, that's just, if you can duplicate it, that's very good.
Well,
It shows consistency.
it does show consistency. In other words, you could show, and I'm not saying this is the case, you won't agree with me, okay? But it could show you can get your dog to do the same thing twice. That's what it could show, right? Yeah, I understand that. You don't think that's what happened.
Well, I don't make the dog does what he does. I'm not leading the dog. The dog is way ahead of me. I don't even need to put the lead on him, except that we were right beside a road, so for safety, I did keep a lead on.
And your dog went back to the same place that you had just searched.
There was a time in between because we didn't realize that there wasn't a GPS run for it. So a little bit of time had passed. I'm not sure how much.
Well, okay. Track 11 and 12 are right in front of Bob Scott RV, right? Mm-hmm. Track,
Those were negatives for Ms. Bergfeld.
I know, I'm just saying, that's
Yep.
what you're doing, right in front of Bob Scott RV, right?
That's true.
And then, wait, now you've got me messed up. Hang on one second. Okay, tracks 6 through 8 are
Okay.
all over at Bob Scott RV, right?
Let's see, 6 through 8. Yes, they are.
And then tracks 10 and 12 are the ones that we're excited about because you're able to duplicate the event of your dog going over to Bob Scott RV.
We're not excited about it. It is what it is.
Sorry.
It's
bad
work.
Word choice.
No.
It's no word. Okay? That's track 10 and 12.
Yes, sir.
So literally, these, but for one track, these are in order. Your dog's going back to the place you were just doing a bunch of searching at, right?
He went back to the glass door. He didn't go back to any of the other places. It didn't mean anything to him going back.
Okay.
I mean,
You testified that your dog did not find cadaver scent at the location of the burned car. No, don't look at your report.
well,
That's what you testified.
well, I mean, what I meant was the burn car meant the space where the burn car was, not the burn car. The burn car, yes, I thought we were talking about the space where the car
You're
was.
right. I misspoke. Your testimony is your dog did not scent cadaver scent
No.
right here.
No, I did not. He did not.
You're positive of that?
Yes.
Read that.
Whoops. Sorry.
The fact of the matter is, it's hard to keep track of everything your dog did, huh?
It is for me today.
Judge, can we approach?
Yes, sir. Feel free to stretch, everybody. Thank you. It's just going to be a few minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Ms. Jones, maybe if you could go with Mr. Wade for us. Thank you. And we'll just take a short stretch break unless anybody needs a short break. But I'm trying to push until 3 o'clock if we can. Thanks.